Alright, so this is obviously not the highest quality video in the world, but I will be looking at Module 3, Lesson 15 today. And if you go to the front of your roadmap, you'll notice that I did the wrong aim here. I have, Kipsters will be able to locate coordinate pairs in all quadrants of the coordinate planes. As you can see, I've crossed off the word coordinates and instead used the word quadrants because we're going to be locating all of those pairs and locations in quadrants of the coordinate plane today. This might be a pretty familiar lesson to you, so let's see if you can go through it pretty quickly. So let's just start with some basic vocabulary here. First things first, we have this thing called the x-axis. And of course, the x-axis is the horizontal axis for the coordinate plane. It is the one that goes left and right. This is the one that goes left and right. Of course, as we know, the positive numbers are located on the right, and the negative numbers are the ones located on the left, with 0 right in the middle. So make sure you go ahead and get that down for x-axis. Meanwhile, the y-axis, you can probably guess, is the vertical axis, or the one that goes up and down. So the vertical axis going up and down. Of course, with up this time being all of our positive numbers, and down or below 0 being all of the negative numbers. So these two things we can see right down here on our coordinate plane. So here I can see this one is my up and down if I create it, drawing right alongside the page there. This is my y-axis. That is going up and down. And crossing in the middle is this thing we call the x-axis. Again, anything to the left is negative, and anything to the right is positive, and then on the y-axis, anything up is positive, anything down is negative. Now there's this point right in the center, right here in the center. We call this the origin. So up here on our next word, we can say the origin is the point where the x and y axis intersect. And intersect is just a fancy word for, well, that's where they cross. So the origin is the point where the x and y axis cross. And the origin is always 0, 0. We don't move to find it. So that's its coordinate pair. And the coordinate pair, well, that's just a pair of numbers that describe the location of something, or the location of a point in the plane, or in the coordinate plane. I'll call it CP, not college prep, but coordinate plane. And so this point, 0, 0, it always goes in order as the x first and then the y. So for example, the point 0, 0, I can see tells me to go 0 on my x-axis, that means don't move, and 0 on my y-axis. So this is the point 0, 0 on the coordinate plane. It's also called our origin. So again, that first thing is called the x coordinate. This tells you how far and left or right. And it's always first. It's always the first coordinate. And then the y coordinate, that tells you, I'm sorry if you can't see that. Again, the x coordinate tells you how far and left or right. It is always the first number. Then the y coordinate also tells you how far to go. But instead of telling you left and right, just like the y-axis, it tells you how far and if you go up or down. It's always the second number. It's always the second number that you look at. So let's take a point here, for example. We have the point, let's say, 2, 3. So the first coordinate, the 2, this is my x, and it's positive. So does that tell me to go left or does that tell me to go right? Well, it's positive, so I should go 2 to the right. 1, 2. I always start from this point. I always start from the origin. It's always my beginning point. So I go 2 to the right, but then it also says 3 for my y. So that means I go 3 up because it is positive. If it were negative, I would go down. So 1, 2, and then I go up 1, 2, 3. And so there is the point, 2, comma, 3. Let's try another one. So let's take -2, -1. And let's take -1, comma, 0. So on your own, try pausing this video for about 30 seconds. See if you can plot those 2 points. And then check with me and see if you're correct. So again, pause it, take about 30 seconds, see if you can plot these 2 points, and then play the video again when you're ready to check. Hopefully you're done trying this, and now go ahead and let's see, -2, -1. Well, -2 tells me we'll go left 2 since it's negative, so I'm going to go 1 and 2, and -1 for the y tells me to go down 1. If it were a positive one, then I'd go up, but it's not, so I label this one as -2, comma, -1. So there's the first one. Let's try this one over here. -1, comma, 0. So again, since the first number is negative, so that tells me, oh, go left. So I go left 1. But then 0 for the y means don't move. So this point actually goes right on the coordinate plane. So here, this would be the point -1, comma, 0. -1, comma, 0. So what we have here are 4 separate areas. We have the first quadrant up here. This is quadrant 1. We just mark that with a Roman numeral I. So this is quadrant 1, and it just goes around from there. So quadrant 2 is down here. Mark that with a Roman numeral 2. Obviously, quadrant 3 is down here. We're going around clockwise. And then finally, quadrant 4 is in the top left. Quadrant 4 you mark with Roman numeral I, Roman numeral V. So we have quadrant 1, 2, 3, and 4. So what I would urge you to try to do is try to fill in the blanks here on this little section. Again, taking about 30 seconds to a minute to try to fill it in. So maybe pause the video right now, see if you can fill it in, and then when you're ready to check, come right back and check and see if you got those blanks. All right, so hopefully you've got this. To describe locations of points in the coordinate plane, we use what we call pairs of numbers. There's 2 of them. And order is important. So on the coordinate plane, we use the form x and then y. The first coordinate represents the point's location from 0 on the x-axis, or the left and right movement. And then the second coordinate, that represents the point's location from 0 on the y-axis, or the up and down movement, and whether it needs to go positive or 0, or positive or negative, up or down. So double check, make sure you've got everything on this page. If you missed something in this first half of the video, go back and try to get it. Try to catch it and make sure you've got board equals paper. Whatever I have on my paper up here on this board, you absolutely need to have on your page. So then, as soon as you're ready, let's go ahead and take a look at the next page. And so on the next page, you should be finding page 4. And there's a few axes, there's a few points here that it's asking you to graph. And I ask you to please pay close attention to the directions. And here's what I would do if I were you. Let's take a look at the directions together. So go ahead and track on your page while I read along. And then as soon as I'm done reading the directions, go through and try to graph these on your own. So it says, locate and label each point described by the ordered pairs below. Indicate which of the quadrants the points lie in. So you're going to take these points, as you can see on the left side of the page, these points on the left side, and you're going to plot each of them on the coordinate plane and then name which quadrant the points are in. So this first one, 7, 2, that's positive. So I need to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then up 2. I went 7 to the right first because it was my x. That tells me left or right. The 2 is my y. That tells me up or down. Now this point looks like it is in quadrant 1, quadrant 2 down here, quadrant 3 over here, quadrant 4 over here. So point A is in quadrant 1. So go ahead and go through. Make sure you've got those same things done for this first one, and now pause and try to get the other ones done on your own. Pause, try to get the other ones done on your own. All right, hopefully you're done. Let's go through these really, really fast. This first one, point B, it says 3, -4. That tells me right 3, down 4. So I go 1, 2, 3 to the right, down 1, 2, 3, and 4. So there is point B. Obviously, it's in quadrant 2. And then point C, it says 1, -5. So that means go right 1, down 5. So it's pretty close to B. So I go over 1 from the origin every time and down 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So here's point C, also in quadrant 2. Next we have -3, 8. And so that would look like left 3, 1, 2, 3, up 8, since it's positive. 1, 2, 3, up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So there is point D. That would be in quadrant 4. And then finally we have -2, -1. So that tells me to go left 2, down 1. There we go. This is point E. It is in quadrant 3. So A, we have 1, B 2, C 2, D 4, E 3. If you can't quite see those points, let me zoom in here a little bit and see if I can get a little bit better picture. And hopefully that'll give you a chance here to pause and look and make sure you've got the same points that I do, and that you're ready to go. So hopefully you got everything you needed out of this lesson. Go ahead and continue with the rest of your class.